Alright, welcome back to my arena analysis. This time I'm going to be taking a look at Paladin. So, Paladin got for construct purposes, let me get the legendary here, Healadin, where basically the Paladin takes a lot of damage and in turn heals up. Healing is not that strong in arena unless you attach it to a body, so I don't think, I'm pretty certain none of this is going to matter. Like, Thekol is just going to be a 3-4. Flash of Light, it's going to be okay. Sometimes I think it's worse than Potion of Heroism because you can't use it to actively trade into something. You have to use it after you trade, or you have to use it to heal your hero. So I think those are worse than Divine Shield. Like Blood Claw, it's a weapon, but you take damage, and sometimes you can't afford to take the damage, especially in the mid game. So a lot of those cards I feel are more constructive viable or just aren't going to work in arena. Except for this, which I'll go over it more, but I actually calculated out. I went through and I mapped it out. So for a new challenger, discover a 6-cost minion, summon it with Taunt and Divine Shield. I went through and I found what I would say 11 great options for this. A great option would be something where I would classify it as a 6/6 or better in terms of value and stats. So because I would say if you have a 7 mana 6/6 Taunt Divine Shield, that would probably be worth an 85 or a 90 or so. So what I came up with here was Bone Drake, Damage Stegatron, which becomes a 5/12, Boulderfist Ogre, Hungry Etten, Mechanical Whelp, which summons a 7/7, Frozen Crusher, Cairn, which summons a 4/4, Illidan, which also has the Illidan effect, so if you have other things you play after this, you can get the 2/1s out, Hemet, and Furnace Fire Colossus, and never mind, I accidentally counted Illidan twice on here. So, again, never mind that, only 10 great options. But still, that's basically about a 60-ish, once you factor in that Paladin has a couple 6-mana creatures anyways, about a 60-ish% chance to get a 6/6 with Taunt Divine Shield. And then probably, I calculated it before, but about a 30% chance to get something like a Stegatron or an Etten or a Cairn or a Whelp, where you're just getting an insane amount of value off of it. And so I feel like it doesn't matter, nothing else matters. It's just a giant body, and sometimes this card is just going to absolutely win you the game. I say it's the best card in the set. I say it's the most impactful card in the set. And thankfully for Paladin, they have it because I think the rest of their cards are really not that great. So let's go over the cards here quickly. Blood Claw. So Blood Claw, would you rather have this or Light's Justice? You see, people really aren't playing. Like, people will probably pick 3/2, so this will be good. But then you're taking a ton of damage early on. In the mid game, like a 1-mana 2/2 weapon really isn't that good. A 1-mana 1/4 weapon is a lot better because you can spread those pings across multiple turns. So it's a weapon. It's a good weapon. I feel the damage really brings it down. So ultimately, I would put it in here. What I have? Okay, I would put it here in the top of the 4th bucket. So I know I mentioned Light's Justice. I think Light's Justice is heavily underrated, and I think Light's Justice should be around here. And I think Blood Claw, similarly, should be around here. Okay, next card here, go back over here, is Flash of Light. I mentioned this. Would you rather have this or Potion of Heroism? For me, it's an easy Potion of Heroism. So it's a little bit worse than that. So if we take a look over here, Potion of Heroism is top of the 4th bucket. So bottom of the 4th or top of the 5th bucket for Flash of Light. Now, it can be used on your hero. It can be used after you trade in. It can be used, so it will get use. But I just think that Potion of Heroism's preemptive ability is so much stronger than it that I would say, just in comparison, if Heroism is here, then Flash of Light really ought to be here. And maybe Heroism should be a little bit up and Flash of Light moves up as well. But a general idea of what cards. Let me move over here a little bit. Oh yeah, you can see the cards down here. Like, ignore Fungalmancer because I forgot to fix that on my tier list. But solid cards, good cards, not really like game breaking or anything like that. It's solid. Time out. Okay. Worthless in Arena. Ice Block was bad. Like all these cards, like in Constructed, it's going to work. In Arena, it's not. Bottom of the 7th bucket, don't pick it if you see it. It's just not going to, it does nothing. Okay, going to rares. Baraki Battle Axe. So the overkill here means you have to kill something with 2 attack or 1 attack because outside of Captain Greenskin, there are no weapon buffs or weapon damage buffs in Arena right now. So going over this, how often are you going to be able to hit something? Like, if you get 1 overkill, it's like, is it even good if you get 1 overkill? You have a 4-mana weapon, and then you get +2/+2 in hand. And I would say that's probably average. So you need to overkill 2 or 3 things, but then you're using this to kill off weak things, which is not all that great. Like, I'm down on this card. I think this card, it's slow, and I ultimately just don't like it. So where'd I have the Battle Axe here? Pull my thing out here. So yeah, for Rocky Battle Axe, I would say, honestly, top of the 6th bucket. Still some good cards here, but ultimately I think it's not what Paladin wants to do. You want your buff cards like that, you want them to be a lot faster. You want to be able to get those buffs out, and having to wait till turn 5 and overkill and all that, it slows everything down way too much. All right, let's see what we got here. Zandalari Templar, 4-mana 4/4. So, as I mentioned, you're not going to get heal cards. Maybe you get a deck with a bunch of Flashed Lights, and this is good. But Hooked Reaver, it ain't. So I think overall, Zandalari Templar, it's a mediocre card. It's 4-mana 4/4. Like, I'll say, sure, it's okay. But ultimately, I would say that it's bottom of the 6th bucket. Like, it's probably like a little bit better than Ogre, Magi, whatever you want to call it. And so I'll be nice and say bottom of the 6th bucket, but I don't think you're going to get decks where you have 10 health restored, much less this. Oh, of note though, Fungal Enchanter and Darkscale Healer have AoE heals, so if you do pick up those cards, this might be a good card to pick up. Spirit of the Tiger. So the big problem with this is that Paladin has a lot of really powerful spells, but those spells are almost all over here in the 1st or 2nd bucket. There, Consecration, Blessing of Kings, Spike Rich Steed. We got here, Dino Size. Call to Arms, bad spell, heavily overrated. But you see, like, these are the big, powerful Paladin spells. And they're all up here. So the real cards that you want to play with this, if we assume a new challenger is similar, then the new challenger is also going to be up here. So ultimately, what are you going to play this with? And if we go down the list, things you can play with. Potion of Heroism, which is fine. Sound the Bells, which is probably the best option for it. Shrink Ray. Like, this makes Shrink Ray viable because once it gets patched in, once it gets fixed, then Shrink Ray will... how do I say this? Shrink Ray, the Shrink Ray effect will go off first, then it will summon a 6/6. Here, Hammer of Wrath. Really good card. I had Flash, whatchamacallit? Potion, Flashio? Flash of Light. Flash of Light would be a really good card. And then, like, things like Dark Conviction, like maybe Avenging Wrath, maybe Lay on Hands. Don't pick Level Up. Prismatic Lens. So you see, there's still some solid cards here, which maybe you want to take if you get one of these early. And this will be insane with, as I said, it'll be insane with Sound the Bells itself. So I think it will happen. I'm not sure how often it'll happen, but I think this card needs to be bucketed higher than normal because of its potential power. So ultimately, like, even though it's very, very situational, I would bucket it here in the bottom of the third bucket. Because, as I said here, this card has incredible snowball potential. This card, if you get the right cards to pair with it, will flat out win you games. So I do not want to bucket it all the way down here where people are going to be picking it. I want to bucket it here so that when you have the deck, this is about the spot where you want it to be. So I would say bottom of third bucket here for Spirit of the Tiger. Okay, we go to Epics here, a new challenger. As I mentioned, absolutely insane card, very low chance to get anything under a 5/5. So I think this is the best card in the set, top of the first bucket. Only this and the Rogue Legendary, the Shark, are the only two cards I have as top first bucket picks. And I think this is clearly card of the set. I don't like just the fact that you can get a 5/12 Divine Shield Taunt for 7 mana and that it's not that unreliable is just absolutely insane. This is much better than Priest Free from Amber because the value is here, Taunt and Divine Shield. And then that's where all the value is concentrated. And then the bonus is just extra stats. So as I said, top of the first bucket, best card in the set by far for me. Immortal Prelate. So this is like Spirit of the Tiger in a way because it relies on buffs. But the problem is, as I mentioned, most of the buffs are cards that are like in the first or second bucket, which you're not going to get. And you have to target it with this card. So I think the best thing to compare it to will be Primal Fin Champion. 2 mana, 1/2, Death Rattle. Restore any card spells you cast on this card to your hand. Would you rather cast spells on this card and put it into your deck where a few turns down the line you will draw an overpowered minion? Or would you rather just have those spells in your hand? And to me, I would easily rather have those spells in my hand where I can do something with them rather than depend on draw RNG to get this thing back. So ultimately, I think it's worse than Primal Fin Champion. Primal Fin Champion is bottom of the 7th bucket. This is bottom of the 7th bucket. Okay, legendaries. High Priest the Call. It's a 3 mana 3/4. 3 mana 3/4s. We know what they are. They are about as 66 on Hearth Arena. Like we, well, let's see, Paladin. Paladin. Thank you. And something like Pixie. Here. Blackwalled Pixie is a 67, and Paladin has a really strong hero power. So I would say it's probably a little bit worse than the Blackwalled Pixie. So 66 or 65, that'd be top of the second bucket for Paladin. So you can see it's kind of like around this area here. And that, not really much all you have to say. Not really much to say there. Shrivala, you're not going to get enough spells to justify this. So like in Constructed, maybe it'll work, but in Arena, you're just not going to get enough spells. As I said, all the real powerful spells are competing against each other. So to be able to spend 15 mana worth of spells to make this 10 mana is real difficult in and of itself. And then you have to spend that before you can play this. So if you draw at any time before you play that 15 mana worth of spells, it's a dead card. I think ultimately very bad card, like impossible to get off in Arena. And like even if you get it off, like the effect is not like a Deathwing effect. It's just like a really, really, really solid effect. So it's not worth it unless you really have it. I would have it as like a 10. Like it's a little bit better than Cho or Darkness, where it's not going to screw you over all that much. But yeah, it's a 10. If someone says it's a 0, I wouldn't argue it with them. It's not going to happen. Okay, that is it for Paladin, and thankfully my throat seems to be clearing up after I turned off the AC, so I think the problem was the AC. And next up, Priest, where Priest got a bunch of stuff that we have seen before, only it's better than what we have seen before. So be back in a bit.